Hello and welcome to this Getting Started with Chartpattern Trader. My name is Randy Opper. You might know me as Dan's protege at chartpattern.com. And I'm just going to show you this program, the basics of how we use it. Now, to begin with, we've got your basic charting, daily charts on the top two. We've got 30-minute charts on both of the bottom two. And you can change those, and we're going to show you how to do that. So let's start out with charting on the left top corner. You'll notice this chart at the top has a yellow pin right at the top. And so does this one. That means these charts are connected, which means if I change this symbol, it's going to change the 30-minute as well. And I could do that for 10 different time frames if I wanted to. So if I want to change the symbol, let's say we want to look at Facebook, I just simply, once I'm clicked into that chart, type in FB, and it opens up the chart and changes both of them, because they're connected by this little pin. And you can change this pin to a different color and they wouldn't be connected. But in this case, yellow is connected to yellow and blue is connected to blue here. Now, let's say you want to change settings on the chart. You don't want this indicator. To add or edit indicators, you could just right click on the chart and you have a ton of options here. You can do everything from clearing the chart and making it re-download, to pulling up another chart, to editing the indicators right up here. So if I'm doing that, I can left click on it, and I could remove this stochastics RSI by clicking the left arrow, and it takes it off the list. If I wanted to add a different indicator, let's say I wanted to add simple moving average, I just click that and I can edit the settings. Let's say I want instead a 10-day. And let's say I want the color to be this color right here, blue. I press OK, apply, and OK. The lower indicator is gone. The new simple moving average is now on the chart right here. Technically, if I wanted to change that, I could also just click right on the line and I could change the settings here. So that's how you add an indicator. Now, let's say I don't want a daily chart. I want a weekly chart instead. At the top of the box for this chart, I can see a little tiny white arrow, and I click it down and I get an options panel, and it has these different options right here: main, view, draw, trading, and template. And the purpose on each one is to do different aspects of this chart. So to begin with, this is an open, high, low, close chart. I could have changed it to a candle chart if I wanted to, or point and figure, or only showing the high, low, close, no open. As for period of time, I want to look at, let's say, the last whole year. So I click 1 year, or I can use custom and switch it to any time period. But a year looks very compressed on this chart. Now, we're looking at a daily chart. Maybe I'll change it to a weekly chart. Instead of 1 day for frequency, now I look at 1 week. That looks better to me. I can now see it's a weekly chart, and we're looking at the last year of data. Now, let's say I switch it back to daily by clicking that, and now we're on daily, and it's just too compressed. I could also use the control key on my keyboard and then spin my mouse, and I can zoom in and zoom out. Or on the next menu over on view, there's a zoom out and zoom in button right here. You can change everything on the chart. There's options to change all of these colors. I just chose the Zenger colors that we give you as default, but you could have changed these to anything you want using the edit color sets. In this case, I'm just using the standard Zenger settings. As for options, you can move this CVR to another place to get it out of the way if you want it at the bottom of the chart right down here. Or you can add other options onto the chart right here, like adjusting for dividends or showing the max pain on options. So it's right now calculating the max pain for the next auction, which is, in this case, the 17th of December, 2021, and it shows the max pain on Facebook is $330. So we can get that data right on the chart. To remove it, we just click options again and remove it. As for drawing, there's a number of drawing tools that you can use, but the simplest is to draw a trend line or an alert. And to do that, you simply don't need any of these drawing tools. You just left click when you're inside the chart and pull it to the spot you want to and let go. You can fix it via these square boxes to get it right so that it attaches to the edge of where you want it. And if we want an alert on that, all we have to do is right click on the line and we have all these options. We can delete it, we could duplicate it, we could even set an alert on it, and it would automatically ask us some details. And once we say okay, we now have an alert when it crosses that trend line. And it actually dropped it into the alert box over here. So we can see that alert and manage those alerts. Another option at the top here is templates. And that is, once you get the chart the way you like it, you could save this as a template. You could default it for every chart in the system, or you could just save it for that chart and have two different templates that you use. Now, we only changed a historical chart. We did not change an intraday chart. What happens if I want to change a chart that's 5 minutes? Well, those are a different type of charts. Those are intraday charts. And we can create more of those using Control H for historical and Control I for intraday. And if we're on an intraday chart, all we do is the same function. Arrow down, we get into it. In this case, we go into the details and we change this, let's say, to a 5 minute chart. And now it looks like too much data. Maybe we only want to say that we see the last 2 days for 5 minutes. And even if that is too much data, we could go into view, or we can use the control and the wheel on our mouse and zoom in further. Now this chart is showing after hours data. Maybe we don't want to see that, extended hours. So we could say never show that. And now we're only seeing Friday's behavior, let's say in this case, and we're only seeing those days. We could change the setting in this case, go to main and switch to being a 10-minute chart if we want it. Whatever our settings and colors, we can adjust all of that. As for the view options, we can change the colors as we know here. We can also draw on the chart using the other tools like Fibonacci and others. We can trade on the chart, and we can save this template once we like it the way we have it. And in this case, we even have a bar to be able to buy it and do trading right on the chart. Now, I would not start with that because there's disclaimers that you can lose money. You got to watch your broker to make sure you did it right. Now, this chart does not affect this chart. They're not even connected. You notice the pins were different colors. So you can then take this chart and move this chart to another screen and save those settings. Now, if you needed to add more charts and you didn't want to hit Control H for historical or Control I to add an intraday chart, you can do it right on the watch list by just right-clicking any symbol. And you can right now get your historical or your detailed quote or your intraday chart right from here. So you can get it right from here. You can also get level 2, you can get your depth, you can get options quotes. All of this is available here. If you want to change the symbol, again, just right on the chart, type in any chart that you want to change it to, Apple, and it changes the chart. Instantly, we'll change it for both of those because they're connected. Now, you don't want them connected anymore. You can change the pin and say there's none. Now they're not connected any longer. And you move them wherever you like. As for the watch list, if you want to add symbols, you can use the insert key on your keyboard to add symbols. Or there are other options, and we have options at the top of the window here, where you can add who you're connected to. My source for all of this data is TD Ameritrade, what I'm using right now. That's where I'm getting all my data. And as for options, we can show a status bar, we can show total rolls, we can actually choose different columns from the view menu. So let's say I want a column for the change high 52%. I drag that column where I want it, and it will show you that. I want the day's range in percentage. I drag that column in. It's at 100% of the range. Apple closed, in this case, this day at the absolute high of the day. So did Toll Brothers, TOL. And I can resort them by the ZVR. Microsoft traded 211% volume on this day. The market's closed right now. So it closed 111% over its normal volume. Bright red telling you that was a lot of volume on that. And it only was down 4 cents. So a lot of volume, but didn't go anywhere. Toll was up 19 cents on double the volume, little over double the volume. Each chart or watch list or tool has its own setting. So IQXP over here, it has its own options. At the top, you can drop down and you have options of who's feeding this data and what sounds you want from the program. But you're going to go into the program under symbols and settings, and add a symbol to it. Now you'll notice that all of these symbols I used 100 or 200 or 300 shares. And the reason why is because algos at this point break up all of those large orders generally. A lot of those orders for 50,000 shares are broken up into tiny orders by the time the computer separates it. So if you want to hear what's going on in something like Apple, you're going to have to put in a lower number so that it actually sounds off. So in the case of Apple, it's a pretty busy stock. It trades a lot of shares. I'm going to use 300 shares, and I'm just going to put in Apple right in the add button here, and I'm going to hit add. And you want to have only maybe 8 to 10 stocks in here that are running at one time, or else you're going to get overloaded with sounds. But I'm going to remove all the others but Apple, and I just want to hear what's going on with Apple. And I uncheck all the rest. Now, every time there's a trade for 300 shares or more of Apple, not only am I going to hear a sound from the program, but I'm also going to see it coming through the ticks window right here. I'm going to see the actual trade going by. And that's going to make a sound that I'm going to hear. And I'm going to see it on this screen here as I watch if it's going up or down the tick and how it's behaving. And you're actually going to get a sense of the market from the sound of the behavior. You're going to see when one of those 8 or 10 stocks starts to run, because it's going to be ripping through this window, and the sound you're going to hear is going to sound hammering. So you're going to have to get used to that tool, but that's where you set it up. Just call it 8 to 10 symbols. Pick a number of shares that match, which is reasonable. So most stocks will be 100 to 300 shares. Generally, when you get to inexpensive stocks, under $20, $30, you're probably going to want to use 500 to 1,000 or more, because as they get cheaper, there's a lot of larger orders. And so on a $10 stock, putting 1,000, it may be very busy still. You want to get it to the point where you're only hearing a good chunk of that, but you don't want this thing making 1,000 noises for one stock at a time, because you're not going to be able to decipher if there's any real buying or selling if it's too noisy. So you'll fill up some stocks in there, and you'll watch it on this screen using the settings right here and seeing this run on the right-hand side. So that explains some basics of the program. All of it is configurable there. So when it comes to a lot more depth of the program, you're going to have to take some time and actually learn to use it. You'll notice at the top of every one of these tools right now, generally, there's a colorful box. And that's where you get to a lot of the options of the program. This is where you get into settings of more advanced settings in the program. You can get into scans and paint bars, loading different layouts, saving your layouts you can do here, getting alert windows and alert logs here. So there's a lot more to the program that we're just not showing you. But to get started at this point, you know exactly how to create a chart, add a chart, remove a chart, and understand all of this is movable. Every one of these charts you can drag into a different spot. You can move these tools and expand them and make them smaller on the edge here. If I take a tool like this and expand it out, the watch list could be longer or wider. And we can move these around to all of our monitors. Also on the IQXP, we've added a new feature that was not in the old version, and that is you can control the volume of the sounds right by hovering over the green box. You can actually see it here and control the sound volume right there for this tool. So that'll give you some basics to start using the charts to add your indicators. We've added the IQXP and the ZBR right to the startup of the program, but you can also add that to the other charts that you create. And we wish you good trading.